I hope you enjoyed that last video. We're going to take that last one a little bit deeper this video and show you the process that I go through to create some high quality PNG stickers, or just graphics that can be used in a lot of ways that deal with like stickers and other little small graphics that can be put on things. I don't know what you call them, like icon style images, but yeah, I want to walk you through that process. A couple of things that you'll need for this: an image generator that is capable of generating a consistent, even, uniform grid of images. My favorite is NanoBanana 2. It, to me, is very persistent, follows instructions almost deadly accurately, and saves me a lot of time in having to reprompt, and regenerate. I can usually get the result I want first try. So you can use whatever image generator you want if you've got it figured out, like how to prompt an open source one. Great. That's the first requirement. Second requirement is you're going to need a program that allows you to remove backgrounds consistently without leaving artifacts, and be able to upscale them possibly. So let's dive right into this. Let me show you what I mean. So as you can see, I've got GIMP pulled up, and this is an image I generated in NanoBanana 2. You can see that we get a very even 4 rows of 5 columns. I will leave the prompt I used to generate this in the description, so you can reuse it if you'd like and modify it however you want. And what I'm going to show you is how to remove this green background, how to split these into individual images, and convert them into high-quality PNGs. Just so you can see the end result, let me show you what we're going to do. So I have a kind of a test background here, and I'm going to just kind of bring out some of the test ones. So you can the reason I do this is so that you can see the consistency around the edges, around different color backgrounds, so you know that it's a solid PNG here, and there's no accidental transparencies within the image itself, and that the edges are very clean. And this process works even on fairly complex objects where you get inside little spaces like this or in here, and a lot of background removal processes will leave like gradients, a little bit of haloing, shadowing, that kind of thing. Okay, let's start by generating a new image. I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do this. Obviously, you can see that I'm in Google Gemini, which uses the NanoBanana model to generate images. So for those of you who are using Gemini, whether it's I don't know if they have a free account or the paid account, either way, it all accesses the same model. I'm also going to show you how to generate these using my XeroGen interface here, which is on my website. And I'm also going to show you how to do it using the software I used in my last video. I've done a lot of modifications to it and added a lot of features to it, so I'll show you there too. So first thing we want to do is get our prompt. So this prompt is detailed. It goes through telling the model what you want and what you don't want. So to start off, we're creating exactly 20 unique retro-futuristic space icons in a uniform 5x4 grid. So first part of this kind of tells the model we want 20 icons, and then we're reinforcing that by saying it's in a 5x4 grid. We're telling it that each one is going to be unique. This is kind of the category we want, the retro-futuristic space icons. We're going to tell it kind of what to include here. We're telling it how to lay it out. Place one complete isolated icon in each equal cell, centered and consistently sized with generous spacing and no overlap. Use crisp, highly detailed sticker style, and that's very important. That adds the white outline. Sticker style artwork with bold, dark outlines and a very thin white border. Do not use green anywhere inside the icons. This is very important. It ties into how we're going to remove the background. Use one continuous, perfectly flat, and then it gives the color code for the chroma key green background. And AI is smart enough to know that it knows what color that is, and that it's a chroma key color. Background across all outer margins and gutters. Do not add grid lines, shadows on the background, gradients, textures, text, labels, or watermarks. Output the complete grid as a high resolution 4K image. That last part we don't really need because we're going to be specifying, actually it depends on which interface you're using, but for this here, this is fine. We can leave it in here because this one doesn't have like options of specifying aspect ratio and pixel size. So we're just going to go ahead and submit that. Give it just a few minutes here, not a few minutes. These are actually, in my testing, they tend to come out every single time the first time. We'll see if sometimes it includes a grid, which I get a little frustrated on, but we'll see. So that mistake is on me. I forgot to specify that I wanted to generate an image. Let's start over with this real quick here. We're gonna grab that prompt again. We're just going to create a new thing here. Now, what I forgot to do, when you're working in the Gemini interface, you have to tell it, create an image, okay? And then you can paste your prompt in and then hit go. Okay, there we go. Now, again, it did the one thing I don't like it to do. This tends to happen only when I'm using the Gemini interface. But there we go. We got your grid of retro-futuristic icons. And if we open this up, you can see they have their white outlines. Now, I don't know what resolution this is. And again, I don't necessarily like doing it this way for a couple of reasons. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, if you don't want to spend a lot of money on other things, not that doing the other way is very expensive, but it's not producing these at 4K resolution. You're kind of leaving it up to Gemini to do it in whatever format it kind of thinks is accurate. So we're going to shift over to using this. So XeroGen Forge is a software I've had up for a long time. You can actually jump in, create an account, and use the prompt generator for free. We're going to paste that prompt again in here. We're going to use the NanoBanana 2. We're using an aggregator replicate. We're going to specify the 5:7, which it looks like it's already on. We're specifying 4K. And we're just going to go ahead and click generate on that. It gives you a preview, shows you what it's going to do, and hit send. Generating this way can take a little longer, especially when you're doing a 4K size. Okay, so I actually did a couple of things. I let that one finish, and I'm going to show you what it did. I accidentally left it on a 5:7 instead of 7:5, which is what I normally use. But I also decided to do a little bit of testing and shift over to a 1:1 and change it to 25 unique retro-futuristic whatever and a 5:5 grid. And that actually turns out really well. And I generated two different ones like that. And here's the one that I generated. It actually included text, which I didn't really want. I mean, if you want, you can. You can actually leave it in there. The background removal process will work with that as well. And so we may test that here so you can see that. So what we're going to do is we're going to save these out. And I'm going to show you the third program that I can use or that you can use to generate this using the same software we're going to use to split and remove the background. So let's move these out. We're going to save these and then I'll move into that program and I'll show you. Okay, so I've moved into the image editor part of my TEK Media Converter. So the original program originally just consisted of this window here where you could drag in a bunch of files, image files, and actually even video files, and convert them to different image types. It's a great program. It allows you to batch convert a lot of different images. It was originally designed because I got frustrated with Apple's garbage HEIC images. And because a lot of my clients would get sent those images and they couldn't view them, couldn't do anything with them. And so I wrote a program that allowed them to batch convert those images to pretty much whatever other format they want, including icons and SVGs. So what we're going to be doing is the generate edit side of things. And you can actually have multiple windows open with this, but we're going to shift over to this one. And Actually, let's close and reset just to make sure we have all our settings set right. Okay, so what this gives you is a super basic kind of an editor window with a canvas. And we're going to come down and I'm going to show you the AI generation. So I have this tied in using an API key to the replicate aggregator again. We're going to take that prompt that we used in the other one. We're going to paste it here. So this is the modified one that has 25 and a 5x5. We're going to come down here. We want to select the aspect ratio of 1 to 1, output size 4K, and I think that's it. We're going to go ahead and just click generate. You have the edit capability here too. We're going to click generate. I think it actually goes a little quicker when using it through this. I'm not entirely sure why, but shouldn't take too long. Yeah, so that was much quicker. I really think that only took about 20 seconds. 20, 30 seconds. And this gives us a good range of icons to test with. And actually one of them, the stars here, will be great because AI background removers have a real hard time with stuff like this and you tend to leave haloing, gradients and things like that. So now that we've got our image, and I've shown you 3 different ways to do this, we're going to shift now over to the a tool that I created called crop, split, and processing. So I wanted to be able to do this on a large number of icons. I mean, I could take this into GIMP or Photoshop and individually cut these out. And I mean, the process is going to be a nightmare. So I built this so that we can actually do this bulk, meaning doing it all at the same time. So the first part is setting up the grid that we're going to split these with. And so we come down here to the crop, split, processing, go into the crop and split. We're going to set the number of rows, number of columns. I'll show you how this works here. You'll see that it's including dotted red lines showing where they're lining up. Now we're going to set the number of columns more, and there we go. So we have our grid. Now, a lot of you are going to say, well, AI doesn't generate the grid evenly every single time, and that's true. It doesn't. And what I've done is I've made it so these lines are individually adjustable. So you can kind of adjust this however you need to get as even as possible with this. And we're going to be making these transparent, so having them exactly square is not necessary. As long as they have transparency all the way around, you can modify it after that if you want. So this actually lined up surprisingly well. I mean, I would only adjust the horizontal ones just a tiny bit. But outside of that, I think we're good. Now, the other option is if you're getting a lot of repeats, this does have the option, these little check marks here. You can click those off if you don't want to include those in the batch processing. Okay. Now we move down to the where we want to specify what to do with the background. Okay. We have a couple different options here you can remove with AI. It does have that capability because that does sometimes work really well when you're dealing with a single graphic. But ultimately, what I found is the remove by color is the best way. And what we're going to do is we have a button here that says pick background color from canvas. So we're going to select that and select the color to make sure we get the exact color that's on this canvas. Then we're going to come down here to the color variance. Color variance just basically says, okay, that's the color, but sometimes there's pixels that are going to be slightly different colors. So we're giving it a slightly different color variance, but I'm going to turn this down. I typically like to have it at 10 because this is a pretty solid color and I don't want it creeping in on any of the other colors accidentally. The edge softness just means how kind of how blended it will be. This, I don't think we need it much higher than 20. Do we want to resize these individual images? And I think we do. I'm going to be resizing them to 1024 on the width. So basically their width will be 1024 and it's going to maintain the aspect ratio on that. So we're going to use AI Upscale for that because that tends to make it look a little nicer than just resizing the image. And then we're going to use this little feature here called Erode Alpha Edge. So anytime you do this with a solid green, this edge around the white, especially with AI generated images, is never perfect. you will get a little bit of green haloing. In fact, in my last video, that was something I completely missed and led me to develop this. So you can specify how many pixels you want to erase off the edge, or how to erode the edges and get rid of that haloing. Now, the order of operation on this, let me make sure I get this right. It's going to first split the images. It will then upscale the images, and then it will remove the background, and then it will erode the edges, giving you your final image. Okay? So we've got all our settings, and we're going to go ahead and come up here and use the split and process. And if you read the instructions here, what that means, you can just do the split grid and it'll just split it as is without removing the background. The split and process will combine not only the split, but the background removal and upscale options down here. So we're going to click split and process. We're going to give that, you can see down here, splitting file or tiles, then applying resize, upscale. It kind of tells you what's going on down here. I think I might add like a little busy indicator to kind of let people know it's actually working on something. So give it just a little bit to process that. Actually, I think I will do some sort of a progress indicator on that. Okay, it's done. So it leaves the original image here. So we're going to go over to the processed images, and you can see it's got all the PNGs here. It's resized them all to a base standard 1024 width and adjusted the height in accordance with the aspect of each individual tile or image. And you can go through this, and it gives you a nice view on a checkered background so you can kind of see it, which is good. So these are individual PNGs. Now we can take these and actually save these out. We can select all those, and we're going to go down here and select save selected. Now you can specify a different format if you want. If you select JPEG, it will remove or create a solid background and not a transparent, but PNG and WebP will be the ones that support transparencies, alpha channels. PNG will maintain the quality. So we're going to go do save selected. And for this, we're just going to save them right into the tutorial folder we've created. Okay, so in that folder, you can see we have all of our individual PNG files. You can kind of, if you have a preview on over here, you can kind of just scroll through each of those to see them. And it's kind of nice to view it here because it puts it on a dark background. You get a view here, but if you want, you can actually open it up. I will just simply open it up in the photo viewer. And that gives you the ability to kind of scroll to zoom in and be able to view the edges. It looks like in this one right here, this green got a little bit of a darker color. So the variance that you can adjust should take care of that. So you can redo these to kind of give you an idea of what each of these look like. Very clean. I love the edge erode option because then when you just remove the background, these edges tend to be very soft. They're kind of got a lot of pixeling artifacts, and when you use the edge erode, it makes a very clean cut. It's very nice that it does that. Makes them very usable in a production environment for a lot of creative projects. Okay, a couple other things, or at least one other thing I want to show you. I want to show you a comparison. We're going to not use the erode background. We're going to set that to 0. And we're going to leave everything else the same because I want to show you the difference that makes in the quality of these as you export them. So we're going to leave the edge erode off, and to shut it off, you just basically set it to 0 and it won't use it. Come up here, we're going to do the split and process again, and then we come back in here to the preview so you can see all the images. And as you can see, there is a green halo. Now you can minimize this by adjusting the color variance, which might help a little bit. So we can come in here, let's select, right around 20. Let's get rid of these. Go back over here and we're going to select, we're going to go ahead and we've increased the color variance. Actually, let's just go up just a little bit more to 30 and go ahead and do the split and process again. And as you can see, it kind of got rid of it a little bit, but what I found is it always seems to include it. It gets a little frustrating. I'm kind of curious where the one that had the green in between the arms or whatever it was. Let's see. Yeah, so it did get rid of that. So by increasing the variance, it does get rid of, you can see here in between the robot arms, it did get rid of that small part. So you could now do the erosion on the edges. So we're going to get rid of these here. And now if we do include the edge erosion, put it back up to 5. I typically like to do 5 to 10, depending on how thick the white line or the white borders are on these. I'm going to do the split and process again. Okay, there we have our final product again. Let's go find that robot here. And there he is. And as you can see, it beautifully removed that, so you get that transparency between the arms as well. Yeah, it just does a much better job. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you here is what it does when, and this is what I'm going to show you why I don't use the AI background remover on this here. We're going to go to remove with AI, and we have 3 different options here. I'm going to leave it on the ISNEC General. I think this one's better for graphics. This one here is fast. Now, I believe the order on this is it upscales, then removes background. So some of these are going to work okay because they're individual icons. But let's just see what it does here. We're going to leave it on that one. Again, we don't have to worry about these because we're not using the by color. And we're going to leave everything else the same. I'm going to split and process. Okay, so it finished up here, and it looks like it did a pretty good job. Again, when it splits into individual icons, it does a pretty good job. But here's where I'm talking about. You see this? It's got a shadow here because it slightly removed the white outline around it. This is kind of the unpredictability of AI, and it also has a hard time with satellite objects, and it left green in here. So it did erode the edges, you can see a little bit, but again, this is why I use the color picker and remove by color, because you end up with these weird issues where the AI can't get into these little nooks and crannies or in between spaces like this, and overall you just end up being very frustrated in the result. Now, there are better background removal tools that can be used online. They cost money. And just honestly, I try to do things as inexpensively as possible. I know I do use NanoBanana on this through the replicate aggregator, which is about 4 cents per picture to generate. There are other ones that you can use that are a little less expensive, but I'm pretty happy with this because it saves me a lot of time. I'm not regenerating images because it didn't turn out the way I want. It just does it. So again, I still recommend NanoBanana too. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Like and subscribe. Follow me for more. And we're going to start putting out a whole bunch more tutorials that hopefully will be useful for people who want to produce useful things. We'll also be doing some tutorials on vibe coding, how I do some of this. All this software that I'm using, I created myself using just doing some vibe coding, but using specifically Codex. And before I used that, I used Windsurf. So hope you enjoy it. We'll talk to you.